John, I don't ever remember there being a bigger deal being made out of, who's being appointed to a presidential cabinet. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm well, but it's been so much stuff going on. Every day we're hearing about these exciting, kind of like historic presidential appointments, whether it's RFK or, I don't know, we had some surprising ones, right? Like some people are getting upset about Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth. Obviously, Elon Musk has now been hanging around Trump like almost every day. Matt Gaetz. Seems like nobody really thinks Matt Gaetz is going to be able to get confirmed.
Well, that's what we're going to get into that tonight. So that's what the show is about, is we're going to look at the various members of this apparent cabinet, assuming everybody gets approved one way or the other. And we're going to look at the positions. I mean, I'm kind of looking at it from the perspective of, if somebody offered you one of these positions, I mean, the first thing I'd want to know is, what does the job entail? What do I have to do? Like, what are the responsibilities? And that I think is going to blow people's minds. We're going to look at what are the potential responsibilities of Matt Gaetz? What are the potential responsibilities of Tulsi Gabbard? And if you guys look really closely, it's hard to do this in a thumbnail because I think Marco Rubio is jumping up and down trying to let everybody know he's there.
He's there.
Out. It's hard to do in a thumbnail because you can't get the animation, but Marco Rubio is in there somewhere jumping up and down going, I'm Secretary of State, I'm Secretary of State. So we're going to talk about his role and how important that is. But yes, Marco Rubio was standing in that photo. So that's exciting. Had some interesting stuff happen on X, formerly known as Twitter, in the last 36 hours. I put out a tweet with an old video montage thing I did about the Neo stuff, and it went viral, and it has now about 3.5 million views or something like that.
Wow.
So what is it say?
3.8.
3.8 million views. And as often happens when our tweets do this, there's like a whole new bunch of people that have never seen any of our stuff before that are drawn into this, right? So you've had this happen a couple times where you've had tweets that go over 1 million views.
Yeah, Norman stuff.
Yeah.
Hunter's video camera.
Yeah, and so people get drawn in, and they're like, but they're not familiar with your work at all, because 1 million people, I mean, that's a lot of people. And when you start getting up in 2 million, 3 million, 4 million people, I mean, that's more people than watch, the news on Fox News at night. Right? So, like, that's more viewers than, I don't know, what does Sean Hannity get? 3 million views, 2.8 million viewers a night? It's something like that. So, that's a big number. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. No, it's true. But what was this? Just remind everybody what this tweet is talking about.
Well, let's read it, because it generated a bunch of controversy, and it's one of the topics, and it's kind of at the heart of tonight's show. So at the heart of tonight's show is sort of the overlying principle here is we got a whole bunch of people coming in to help Donald Trump run the government. Now, he's done this before. He knows these secrets that I'm sharing with our audience. Everything I'm telling our audience, and I tell our patrons when we go to the patron-only portion of the show, Donald Trump knows all this. There's nothing that I know that he doesn't know. Zero. Nothing.
Well,
all right, so he knows everything. Everything I'm telling you, he's like, yeah, of course. Of course, yeah. So he knows all this. He's like, there's nothing I've got that's new to him. Now, the question is, how much of this has he been able to share with his inner circle? And I don't know the answer to that. So has he been able to share the real truth with Bobby Kennedy yet? Has he been able to share the truth with Tulsi Gabbard yet? With Marco Rubio yet? Or is he waiting for confirmation and then they're going to get debriefed? Well, tonight's show is that briefing. Tonight's show is to help them understand what the hell has been going on in America for the last 7.5 years. because if they're going to navigate and fix and do the doji, whatever he calls it, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, well, you kind of need to know what the lies were. Otherwise, you're going to fall for too many nonsense stories. So tonight, I'm going to try and sum up all of the nonsense that's been going on quickly, in rather quick format, so that people can put it together. Because people are so confused by this tweet. Like, people look at the tweet and they're like, would you just say what you mean? And you should see the comments. They're really nasty. So, would you say what you mean? You're a horrible communicator. Can't figure out what you're talking about. All the comments, all the responses. So again, it's people
from millions.
Right. But they have no familiarity. There's no frame of reference here. They don't know what this, what's this about. So why don't you go to the original tweet that's got the 3.5 million views, and let's read what it says, and then tell me if this sounds hard to comprehend. Does it seem cryptic? Again, I'm a little bit weird, and I write weird. So let's read it. Can you read it?
It says, based on a true story, March 10th, 2020. Mr. President, I think you need to see this, sir. NORAD, NASA. What are those? Donald J. Trump. The blue dot is Earth, sir. The white dots are asteroids. When are they all coming together? What date are they converging? Donald Trump asks. April 27th, sir, about 6 weeks from now. They are all converging on Earth, sir. You've got to be kidding me. No, sir, there are 30 to 40 of them. It's an extinction level event, sir. March 11th, 2020, the very next day, the WHO declared a global pandemic, but there weren't 10 dead in Hong Kong, Shanghai, or Beijing. Field hospitals were ready April 20th. They were dismantled 10 days later. That is really stupid that they just dismantled them 10 days later, and basically nobody remembers that. So, I mean, yeah, that's a fine tweet. What is it that what's the beef?
People are confused by it. They don't understand the relevance of it. Questions like, so there was no COVID, there was only asteroids, and asteroids killed my grandmother, shit like that. So you get kind of a lot of confusion here. And it's a confusing story. We take it for granted because we've been tracking the story for it's almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
Right? Coming up into the February timeframe, it's going to be 5 years. So we're well past 4.5 years of tracking this. And the net of it is that day, that right there with President Trump is speaking at the podium, that's March 13th of 2020. And the issue here is when you see all these guys file out of the White House, you see them all coming out of the West Wing. It looks like a clown show there. I mean, I've never seen so many people come out of one. Look at this. Look how many people coming out of here. They're coming and they're coming and they're coming. There's not 10 people dead in Hong Kong. There's not 10 dead in Shanghai. Nobody's dead in Vietnam. Nobody's dead in New York. Nobody's dead in Florida. Nobody's dead in Texas. This doesn't seem like a little over the top for a respiratory infection in a city in China we've never even heard of that hasn't really spread anywhere?
It's funny, right? People think about it in hindsight as such a big deal, but they don't remember how it began it's like, how did they know it was going to be such a big deal?
Why would you think it would be a big deal? Why would you think that was the case? And in particular, if you watched CNN, you would have said, well, wasn't there like this big outbreak of influenza in Hubei province, like in October, November 2019? Well, what are you guys all worked up about? It's probably that, right? So basically what you're seeing here is it's on. It's on. And this is one of the biggest cover-ups of the 21st century. So we have September 11th. We have the Las Vegas shooting, which are very tightly coupled. And then we have this. But the thing is, when this happened, there was already a pandemic underway, and the COVID plan was already done. In other words, Crimson Contagion was finished. And people who are watching this for the first time, watching the asteroids, are going, Crimson Contagion? What the hell does Crimson Contagion have to do with the asteroids? It's got everything to do with it. Because Crimson Contagion was already done. And along come the rocks. The rocks were not part of the plan. The rocks come out of nowhere. We weren't expecting them. And then they're gone. And after they're gone, they're gone. We put everything away. But the reason I share this stuff with people is for people to understand the size and scale and scope of what Langley does. They fooled the world about what was going on with the bird flu. Okay, COVID's real. SARS-CoV-2 is real. Came from a lab in Wuhan. Everybody's pretty well locked in on that. But there was another virus with the birds. We had the deadliest avian flu in history. 2 viruses, a green one and a blue one. Not denying COVID at all. COVID, nasty. I don't want to get that either. But the other one, real scary stuff. And then all of a sudden, they brief the president with this stuff. And he's looking at the NORAD and NASA guys like, is this a joke? No. Now, the good news is they had a plan. And the plan is to build field hospitals in all the major cities. Because if there's an impact somewhere, so let's say there's an impact in Westchester County, in Rye, New York, or something like that, they're going to need to treat people, take them somewhere. Where are you going to take them? So they set up field hospitals. There's one in Stamford, Connecticut. There's one in Westchester. There's one in New York City. So that's what they're for. Not for a respiratory infection. And they only stood for 10 days. If they were for COVID, probably would have left them up for 6 months, 9 months. Something.
Yeah, made no sense.
So, all right. So that's one of the big cover-ups here. That tweet goes viral. People are confused. And so what we're going to try and do tonight is kind of wrap it all up. But at the same time, there's been some election stuff that's kind of interesting. You see this map up here, this red map and blue map? I mean, this is kind of wild. So again, this is kind of right up my alley. You guys know I'm kind of a mapping guy, having participated in the development of the ESRI system. And that's what you're seeing here. So that image is from ESRI. So they're using all the counties. These are the counties within the United States and how they voted. And it's kind of interesting to get a perspective.
I mean, look at how red it is.
And look at, well, to me, what's interesting is where the blue is the interesting part. And it appears to me that the closer you live to the water,
well, cities, big cities.
But they appear also to be on the rivers, Miami. I'm seeing along the Mississippi River there, along the Rio Grande, along the California coast.
Isn't that where cities form?
No, there's also cities in the middle of the country too, but I'm talking about the dense blue stuff. You know, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York City went all blue, except for the Lower East Side. There was one little zip code in the Lower East Side that went for Trump, and the rest of Manhattan, all of Manhattan, went for Kamala Harris.
Morons.
Which I'm kind of, given the condition of Manhattan, I was kind of shocked by that. It's like, really? Everybody thinks that's good? The way it's like you walk around and do your walk and talks, and everybody's kind of stunned that you make it back alive every time. And they all said, no. This is the way. This is working. It's like, really? So that's kind of the thing. You look at this map and it's like, so half the country is the blue stuff. That's kind of weird,
right? And these people want to get rid of the
electoral college.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You look at this now. The thing that kind of jumps out at me here is if you concentrate. Let's start at the tip of Texas, all the way down at the bottom, tippy tip of Texas. Isn't this kind of where they're having all the migration problem?
Yeah. Who's doing that voting?
And they all said, no. Kamala, the border czar, is the way to go here.
Weird.
I'm just a little.
Look at California, too.
I'm just confused. Again, that's what I mean.
Look at all
I get
these
confused.
border states.
Right. So
what's this? Nevada?
Well, hang on. Stay on Texas for a minute. How many counties along the border of Texas voted for Trump? Let's look at that.
Well, it's still a lot.
No. That's the coast. I'm talking the river. I'm talking the Rio Grande.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, right. You're right.
It's all blue. It's all blue. I see two reds.
Right.
That's it. Every other county along the Rio Grande voted for the current borders are. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I
think they tried to cheat and it failed. I think.
You can't say that. You can't say they tried to cheat. You just say, I think it's odd. I think it's odd.
Yeah. Did you know that now when we just create a video about the election, it has to warn you? Did you know that?
There you go. That's good.
YouTube has become
democracy.
So dangerous for everything.
Democracy dies in darkness.
Yeah,
all right, so let's go back to the map. Go back to the map. Stay in the map. The map is awesome. This is important for people to see this with the map. So we just looked at Texas. We just established that there's only 2 counties in Texas that voted for Trump along the border, and that every other county in Texas along the border felt that the current border czar is on it. She's got it. Back off, red-haired guy. Back off, orange dude. She's got this. And that's Texas. Now, the rest of Texas, except for what, Dallas? What's that? That's and Dallas and Houston. So Houston, I guess things are rocking in Houston too, and they're digging the whole $9 egg thing. So they voted for Kamala. It looks like that's a wealthy suburb up in the Dallas area. But I was just kind of stunned by what I saw on the border. I was like, really? That is kind of wild. Now, let's go to the left of that, because that's New Mexico. And I've been wondering about New Mexico this whole time, all this border controversy. And I'm like, nobody talks about New Mexico. They must be coming through that New Mexico border.
Yeah.
And nobody's even there. Like, all you hear about are like...
Have you been to New Mexico? Everybody's a little bit kind of out to lunch. It's hot.
I don't think I've ever been, unless we did
not that much of a hurry, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think we ever did that. I think flying into Santa Fe or Albuquerque is just a little bit too complicated. Most of the meetings we used to do were based on flights coming in from all over the country, because you got a team of guys everywhere.
Yeah, and anybody in New Mexico is just meeting you in Vegas or something.
Yeah, it's like Peoria, Illinois is the central point. That's why everybody wants to go to Peoria, Illinois. All right, so net of it is now we look at New Mexico, and it looks like on the New Mexico border, that first county also went blue. There's only, right? So that first county, that's it, that went blue. Now the next one went red, the other one went red.
There's a little gerrymandering here.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody sending somebody a signal, it looks like. All right, now... Right next to that, where you get the zig and the zag, now you've got Arizona. Look at the border in Arizona.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're loving it.
What, dude? I thought this was a problem. I thought this was the stuff that's on the YouTube stuff where they're coming through the fence and the chick is down there.
Which is Maricopa County?
I don't know. In the middle? Maricopa's Phoenix.
Where's Phoenix?
So,
yeah.
In the middle. It looks like that went red for Trump.
Yeah, they like Sheriff Joe there.
So they voted for Trump, but we're looking at the border. All right, so Arizona went Trump, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of like the border places voted for the existing borders are. That's kind of wild. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Did
Maybe
that really happen? Like that's kind of
California
now.
crazies moved
No,
there to be
same
on the
thing,
border.
dude. Look at go to California now. Look at the border
San
count.
Diego.
So one county in Arizona voted for Trump, but that big blue one, what's that? That's got to be Tucson.
I don't know.
I mean, south of Tucson. I mean, I don't. It's got to be that Yuma, right? Or Yuma voted for Trump, but the one next to Yuma voted for Kamala. To me, this is kind of stunning. It's like
Too
I
hot.
thought that's where all the trouble. Now you go to California, and the whole border, all the counties in California said, no, she's got this. To me, I would expect to see. You see how you see red in California up in the farm
Yeah.
country, up
It's
in
getting
Sacramento
eaten
and
away
stuff.
by this
All the
blue
farmers.
nonsense.
But I'm stunned that you don't see the red along that southern border. To me, that's kind of the shock of this. I'd expect, that's my bias, right? So I'm sure my bias is I would expect that would have been predominantly red. And look at Texas, it's predominantly blue. California's all blue. Arizona, call it half and half. New Mexico, maybe 2/3 red. And then Texas, the whole Rio Grande. I mean, there's just two little things that are red. That
Steve says
blew my
the
mind.
cartels control southern Arizona. So maybe that's it. Maybe there's somehow cheating with
Maybe
cartels.
southern Texas too, dude. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how many counties that is in Texas. That's a lot of counties.
But
So
it doesn't
that
look
blew
like a
my
lot of people realistically outside of California are voting for this nonsense. People realize they're idiots.
All right. The other thing that jumps out at me when you zoom out of the map like this, I rode my motorcycle across the country and I went across Route 2 up at the top at Minnesota, North Dakota into Montana. And what you see up there are some blue spots in North Dakota, right on the border. And that's Route 2 right there. And that's an Indian reservation right there. And the same is true in Montana, right on the
Do they
border there.
vote?
That's near. They sure do. And so it appears to me that the Indian reservations are leaning towards the Democratic Party. And if you now go back down towards Arizona, I think that whole northern right corner of Arizona is one of the nations. See that long, skinny one that goes, that's all, I forget if it's Navajo or so. It's one of the Indian nations, and they all went Kamala. Now, what's also interesting here is the one that's the big blue one there in the middle of Arizona on top. I think that's the Grand Canyon, and that's Eli Crane. So they voted for Kamala for president, but Eli Crane instead of the local
Sounds
Democratic
like
guy,
cheating.
which is weird. And the thing was, Eli Crane was running against a Native guy, a Native American. And I didn't even know he was running until last week. Last week's show, I was like, I don't even know the guy was running. So he ran, he won, but they voted for Kamala for president where he is. So again, just kind of weird stuff going on here that I thought anomalous, right? It's like from a numbers perspective, from a quantitative analysis perspective, just things, again, and I'm telling you, I'm bringing bias to this. I'm bringing my bias, but it's just stuff that jumps out at me. Do we have another minute or two before we go to the patron only stuff?
Minute.
Another minute? All right. So last week, we shared something with the patrons that our YouTube audience doesn't know about. And that is, I made a decision that we're going to contemplate together as a crowdsourcing operation here, this next presidency. And I'm going to probably announce my candidacy for president following an official set of sequences here. I think it's on the next page. We have the sequences on the next page. We were talking, no, that's good. We were talking last week about J.D. Vance. Well, they're already talking about 2028. It's already in the news. They're talking about J.D. Vance already. This was last week's show. Go to the next slide real quick. Just bang through these. J.D. Vance, talking about him, They're talking about Vance. Is he the candidate? Is he the guy? This is what we were talking about last week. And now they're saying, well, who's going to be with the Democrats? Well, if you go to the next slide, this is where it gets kooky. Because one of the guys they're talking about is this Ruben Gallego guy who just beat Carrie Lake, who was, go to the next slide. I love this. Do you guys remember, I don't know, I'm sorry. Do you remember, who's that guy? Eric Swalwell, who was dating Fang Fang?
Yeah.
So Ruben Gallego was
think.
his campaign manager. It's like the only thing worse than being like a lunatic is being the manager of the lunatic. And it's like, so Ruben Gallego was Eric In other words, these two guys thought it would be a good idea for Eric Swalwell to run for president in 2020 when he was with Fang Fang.
I thought she blew up in a plane crash.
2 years later, she blew up in a plane crash. So because nobody's talking about Apophis, because nobody's talking about these topics that we're going to be getting into with our patrons, I'm going to have to run for president. Now, if you think in the past, Marianne Williamson ran for president, Cornel West ran for president, Pocahontas ran for president, there's a lot of people who felt that Eric Swalwell thought he should run for president. I'm running for president.
His name is terrible, isn't it? Well, listen, John, we're going to carry this over here to the sponsor exclusive segment and continue talking about that. People are going to be able to join us on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks to everybody who's sponsoring the show. We'll see everybody in 5 minutes. Stay with us.